Josh Paunil, Birds 24/7, part of Philly Mag, joins John McMullen, PG, right now on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh, happy holidays to you. What's going on?
Yeah, happy holidays to you too, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here, Josh. I wanted to ask you about your article here on Birds 24/7, talking about Chip Kelly in his press conference. The quote, "We won't run it for the sake of running it." Let me ask you this just about his press conferences in general. From the time that DeMarco Murray really started to see less carries the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, has anything changed in those press conferences? Or do you guys just kind of go after him just to see what kind of a story this guy likes to try and spin and make up to defend 2 carries for DeMarco Murray in a December football game, Josh?
Well, people have certainly been questioning his reasoning, because it's one thing to, sidestep a question or not really answer it, but it's another thing to be, kind of deceptive or just misleading. I mean, that was one thing today, for example, Pat Shurmur talked about in his press conference about how if there's a clear difference in running back, then you'll see that in the carries. And so someone followed up with, well, DeMarco only had 2 carries, so is there a clear difference? He was like, no, I wouldn't say that. So it's certainly been press conferences that I'm sure Chip and Pat Shurmur haven't enjoyed, because, it's not like we'll just take these answers that, aren't completely honest, and that they're just kind of trying to spin it and not be truthful about it. So when you get those kind of answers, it's certainly not a fun time for Chip.
Well, Josh, where are we with DeMarco when you talk about Chip saying we're not going to run it for the sake of running it? Pat today was last year for DeMarco Murray. Obviously, since the New England game, he's been clearly third on the depth chart. Do you expect any change with no margin for error, or is this how we're going to move forward from this point?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything to change in terms of DeMarco getting, a significant increase going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, a little bit more balanced than it was this past week, but I don't anticipate DeMarco getting the bulk of the carries or just being the lead ball carrier in general. Ryan Matthews has shown that he's the most productive back. Darren Sproles obviously has a niche in passing down situations, so there's really no reason to believe that DeMarco Murray will or should get more carries.
Chatting Eagles football with Josh Paunil from Birds 24/7 and PhillyMag.com. Josh, before we get on to the Redskins, wanted to get your take on 4th and 1, because the one thing that DeMarco Murray has done well this season has been short yardage, 12 for 12 on 3rd or 4th and 1. What was your take on that particular game, which to me was the turning point of the Arizona game?
Yeah, I agree that was a turning point. I mean, that was just an absolute momentum killer to not get any points right before the half. I completely agreed with the decision to go for it. I agreed with having Ryan Matthews in at running back. I wasn't a big fan of the play call, though, because up to that point, so that was a mid-zone play. And so up to that point, when the Eagles were running those zone plays, they were only averaging about 2 yards per carry. So there was no reason to believe that, okay, we'll run this play. It's been working for us all game. Let's do it again. I mean, the one play that they had success on was a sweep or play to the outside. Was the Ryan Matthews 20-yard run. Obviously a completely different play than what they ran. So there's no reason to believe that run would work. Now, this, you could argue it's more of a tasting. I'm a big fan of the play action, those type of situations. Even though your quarterback is Sam Bradford, give the quarterback a chance to either run for the yard and get out of bounds or make a defender come up and he can throw it. But I just don't see why you would run it in that situation, given the previous, yards per carry that you had up to that point.
Especially, Josh, after Bruce Arians calls the timeout, and then they give you the exact same look before the timeout. And does that speak to the fact that Chip Kelly doesn't allow his quarterbacks to audible at the line of scrimmage? Because I have to figure Sam Bradford has won a Heisman Trophy on his resume. I have to figure out that if he sees 11 guys in the box, he's got to know that this play call is not going to work. Let me audible out of this. Does that speak to maybe the fact that Chip Kelly doesn't allow his quarterback the freedom to audible and change plays at pre-snap?
Yeah, it does speak to the lack of creativity that Sam Bradford and Eagles quarterbacks just in general have in Chip Kelly's offense. I mean, he was asked that last week, Chip Kelly, was about when you have this up-tempo offense or just your philosophy in general, do you sacrifice what your quarterback can do pre-snap? And he was like, no, that's a big misconception. But then Pat Shermer said today that no, we weren't going to have Sam audible at the line of scrimmage. We were running that play. There was no audibling out of it. So obviously, I mean, like you said, when a quarterback sees, I believe it was 10 guys.
Yeah.
10 guys in the box. When a quarterback sees that, most quarterbacks, even armchair quarterbacks like me and you will think, maybe we should change out of this play that we have called.
Josh Paunil, Birds 24/7 on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN FM. Let me ask you about the Eagles' rush defense, Josh. We saw David Johnson 187, Doug Martin over 200 yards in that blowout. Jonathan Stewart tore him up on the ground earlier this season as well. Can we just point to the inside linebackers, the loss of Jordan Hicks, but really D'Amico Ryans, Kiko Alonso, and Michael Kendricks? Is that why this rush defense has really struggled down the stretch here, Josh?
Well, for the most part, especially leading up to this Arizona game, you can definitely point to the inside linebackers in the loss of Jordan Hicks. Kiko Alonso and Michael Kendricks obviously haven't been playing very well. More so, Kiko Alonso has especially been struggling. But in this Arizona game, what really stood out to me and what some of the players talked about today was the problem was obviously just awful tackling. But the reason for that was they were going for the strip too much, trying to force the fumble. And that's a problem, I mean, especially with coming from the coaches because, the coaches say, well, we tell them that you need to go for the tackle first, and then once we have the tackle secured, go for the ball. But obviously the coaching didn't get through to them because you saw time and time again against Arizona on Sunday, guys just going for the strip and giving up huge gains. I mean, obviously that Byron Maxwell play, I'm not even sure if he was going for the ball, if he just decided to go high and jump on the guy when he was taken for a ride for 18 yards. So that was a problem that, although the players are obviously responsible for making the tackle, the coaches have to do a better job emphasizing what they want because that's not what you want to see on Sunday.
Josh, now that we're late in the season, get in that tackling mode. And obviously guys like Jalen Watkins, it doesn't apply because he hasn't played a lot. But that Eagles defense, which was unquestionably the strength of this team, at least early in the season, is on pace again to essentially play 18 NFL games. And I find it kind of ironic that Chip Kelly's entire offensive philosophy is based on wearing down the opposing defenses, but he doesn't realize that the very way he plays offense is wearing down his own defense. Do you buy into that thesis at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this defense is absolutely getting worn down. I mean, before, probably in the middle of the season, I would say, it was more they would be getting worn down in the fourth quarter. But now it's just, in general, it just takes a toll even from the start of the game. And that's something that Chip admitted that I was surprised to hear because you haven't heard him say before. I think it was a few weeks ago. He finally kind of just on a side note said, the defense can get more tired the way I run my offense. And then he, continued to answer the question, whatever it was. But I thought it was interesting that he finally admitted that, when we run our offense this fast and we aren't successful, it takes a toll on the defense. And that's what you've seen. I mean, it's not like the Eagles have had a significant, reduction in talent. The Jordan Hicks injury hurts, obviously, but you still have Fletcher Cox, Benny Logan, Malcolm Jenkins, and these outside linebackers haven't had any injury problems. So definitely the time they're out on the field, because these guys, it's not just the total time they're playing, but they don't really get a break either. I mean, you come back, you get off the field after a long drive, maybe home to a field goal, then your offense goes out there, 3 and out, you're right back on the field. So it's really not helping the defense, the way the offense is playing, they're putting them in a very difficult situation and making the tall task of stopping Arizona even more difficult.
Last one for you, Josh Paunil, Birds 24/7. Quick preview of this Redskins game. The Redskins know what they have to do. The Eagles, they know what they have to do. Since the return of Deshaun Jackson to that lineup, Josh, Kirk Cousins has been a completely different quarterback with that deep threat now. Give us an early look at this Saturday night football game at the Link, Josh.
Yeah, so the one thing that I'm really looking at is I think this could be a game where both teams kind of light up the scoreboard a bit. I mean, Kirk Cousins has certainly been playing better since Deshaun has returned. But the opponents, I mean, a couple of games ago, they beat the Bears by 3 points, one of the worst teams in the NFC. A few weeks ago, they lost to Dallas, arguably the worst team in the NFC. So the opponents they've been playing have been of pretty poor quality since Deshaun has returned. And but the thing is, with the injuries the Eagles have been facing, Byron Maxwell could be out. Eric Rowe, even if he does play, will he be banged up or will he be 100%? But the Washington secondary, they're 30th in the NFL in yards per reception allowed. And what that means is the Eagles should have some opportunities to get over the top of the defense, similar to the first game. I mean, Sam Bradford had 4 completions of at least 30 yards. One to Miles Austin and one to Riley Cooper even. So I think this is a game that I expect the Eagles to win this game. In the 31 to 28 range. It'll be a close one, but I could see Sam Bradford having a big game. But he's going to need some help from those receivers that have been hot and cold on him this season.
All right, Josh Paunil, Birds 24/7, catches coverage at Birds 24/7. Josh, Merry Christmas again. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
Thanks. Enjoy the holidays, guys.